personal offering, right? In
Yes,
with
bro. Yeah, well,
Purnima. Okay.
that's like that.
Yeah, so I was going to share like my connection to Bhagavatam, and then maybe share two verses that particularly inspired me in preparation for like in Bhagavatam. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu. That's
Okay.
great.
Okay. Great.
Thank
So for me, first um my first memory of Bhagavatam is there's this children's stories of Bhagavatam. Like it's this picture book. Um, I recently just saw it at Pratibha Prabhu's house. I think it's been discontinued, I believe. But anyway, it's something that it's like a rectangular book with children's stories that was there at least when I was growing up. And that was my first ever maybe like connection or understanding in terms of what Bhagavatam is or what it contains. I used to think it's the same thing as Bhagavad Gita when I was little. And so when I saw that book, I was like, oh, it's actually just it's different from the Bhagavad Gita. So that's my first memory as a child of Bhagavatam is that children's stories book. And in fact, I'm trying to obtain that book for my kids, but it's hard to locate it. Um, and then my second very big memory of Bhagavatam is when my mother would ask all of us to read Bhagavatam together as a family. And my memory is that we started reading the seventh canto of Prahlad Maharaj, and he's asking these questions to Nrsimhadev, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that those are some like I don't know key memories I remember in terms of my first interactions with Bhagavatam when I was super young at the time. Um, the other big value I've seen of Bhagavatam is that it's been an instrument to build relationships with other devotees. Um, of course, we hear Bhagavatam in the morning classes at temples, and that's one way to connect with the speaker, whoever it might be. But the Bhagavatam is another thing that I used to read with the youth in ISKCON Silicon Valley in California, and uh, I remember every week it just reading the Bhagavatam would lead to so many discussions and would always leave me inspired to read more. And so that I remember that was a vehicle to develop a relationship with those youth and then other senior devotees in Chicago, right? Like that where Bhagavatam was just a relationship builder. Like just being besides being a scripture, it was a way as a means to build strong relationships with other devotees. So that was my second sort of thing I wanted to share. Um, and the third sort of pivotal or important moment for me with the Bhagavatam was when my first child, was in my wife's womb. We that was the first time we read the whole Bhagavatam, cover to cover, just the translations, and that was something that one of the devotees in again in ISV would read with us every day because it's auspicious and beneficial for the child to hear the full Bhagavatam while they're in the womb of the mother. And so that was my first time I read the Bhagavatam cover to cover. And again, I gained so much appreciation. And then, of course, we did it again when my second daughter was in the womb as well. So, yeah, those are some like just personal moments that I remember and are really and are special for me when it comes to Bhagavatam. And then, of course, there's so many lessons, stories, and principles that come out of there. And um, I particularly enjoy, or not enjoy, but I benefit in preparing for the Bhagavatam classes in this Naperville Sangha because it always forces me to go deeper into the scripture and find takeaways for myself. And I was actually reflecting on all the times I've prepared for this Sangha, this SB. speaker sung in Naperville. And I have this giant document of all sort of the preparation and from all the last few years. And there was two specific verses that had inspired me in preparation for one of these sessions for one of these classes. So I just wanted to share those two verses that were the most sort of inspiring because of this particular service that Lakshmikant Prabhu has engaged all of us in. So yeah, just wanted to share that and also say thank you to uh, Lakshmikant Prabhu and the devotees for having something like this where it forces us to go deeper for our benefit and for our knowledge. One of the verses that I wanted to share is from Canto 3, Chapter 7, verse 14. Um, this is where Vidura is asking questions, and the canto's the status quo. And so the, the 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 verse is something like this: Ashesha Shanklesha Samam Vedate Gunanuvada Shavanam Murare Kimba Punastacharanavinda Paraga Seva Ratiratma Labdha. The translation is simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet? And so, again, some background context is, Lord, Vidura is just asking previously, he's asking in this chapter, Krishna is in everyone's heart. So why do our activities still result in misfortune and misery? That's the basic question he asks. And so then Maitreya responds with, multiple different things. And in that response, this is the verse he states, which is that, hey, simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form of Krishna, we can end these miseries that we keep facing. Um, what to speak of the people who actually love Krishna and who actually want to serve the dust of the lotus feet? I mean, they probably can achieve more, but even for devotees who just chant and hear the name, the name of the form, the miseries can end. So that's the proclamation. That's sort of the statement Maitreya Muni makes to Vidura in response to his question. And so the purport, and so before I go to the purport, it's almost this verse is almost sort of, sort of giving us the easy way out, which is saying all you have to do is chant and hear the glories of Krishna. You don't have to go, to beyond that, and you can end miseries. Like you can end it. You can end that for a life. And so he's kind of giving us this like, you know, easy, not easy, but sort of yeah, this concession where you just have to do this and you can get XYZ from it. And so the purport, Prabhupada talks about there's two methods for controlling the senses. One method is the path of jnana, like the path of knowledge, understanding Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, and the other path is transcendental loving devotional service, which is considered the more popular path. Um, and Prabhupada says that there's sort of you can dumb it down in two stages. The first stage is where you're practicing devotional service, whether with the under the regulations of scriptures and other acharyas, or the second stage is where you're in raga bhakti, where the devotee just does spontaneous services, but out of sincere attachment. And then he makes the point. He also makes the point that pure devotional service is sudarlabha. It's rare to achieve it. And so this is the verse that I remember like reading in preparation, and it just talks about yeah, that by simply chanting and hearing the glories of the name the Lord, this is what you can achieve. And then Prabhupada expands on it in this way. And so just focusing on this principle of like, and again, as we were talking about the Purnima, what are some of the glories of hearing about Krishna from Bhagavatam? Like, why should we do that? Besides what Maitreya Muni is saying, which is, uh, you can end all miseries. What are some other, like, how else can we get inspired to just hear about Krishna from Bhagavatam? And so there was a few stories that and that I could share to help us sort of remind that, as to, in terms of why it's so beneficial to hear about Krishna from the Bhagavatam. And so one of the stories is, for example, if you read the pastime of Prithu Maharaj, it says, in the end that if you just hear his pastime, you you sort of attain a different level of purity, the pastime of Prithu Maharaj. And then the same goes for if you hear or read the prayers of Gajendra, when Gajendra prays to Lord Vishnu, it says, if someone chants early in the morning those prayers, you can attain the same destination as Gajendra. And so, that sort of sets this culture of observing the great devotees. If we just observe the great devotees in our scriptures, like Gajendra or Prithu Maharaj, just read their prayers in the morning. It's said that you can attain the same destination as Gajendra, for example. Um, and then there's this pastime of Putana, which is in Canto 6, where um, Putana had come with a purpose, and she comes with the purpose to poison, but she goes back with nectar. So Krishna, she she had come to kill Krishna, but she ultimately goes back to God and actually gets to associate with Krishna in that pastime. And so it's said that in Krishna's world, he takes the poison and he gives the nectar. He took the poison from Putana, but he gave her back nectar. And again, Sukadeva Goswami says, anyone who hears about Putana, this mysterious and marvelous pastime, that person attains the love of the feet of Krishna. Um, and then, in the Bhagavatam, that statement is made that when we hear about the pure devotees of the Lord, rather than just hearing about Krishna, that's even more powerful because even Krishna is listening about that, is in that assembly listening about that devotee. So whenever we speak about a great devotee, Krishna's actually there wanting to listen about that great devotee. And so we're actually associating with Krishna when we're hearing about that great devotee. Another pastime that comes to our attention is this pastime of Kutiyor. It's a Lord Shiva temple. I believe it's like only open for 10 days in South India. This is a story that uh, Rompad Maharaj had narrated in one of South India yatras, many, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago or so. And yeah, yeah, there's a Shiva temple in South India, and there used to be this great devotee in Kerala by the name of Pundanam. He's a devotee of Krishna. And so the devotees had arranged for this devotee, Pundanam, to narrate the Bhagavatam in the temple of Shiva. And so, Pundanam, this devotee, he spoke about Rukmini's letter to Krishna. And as you know, when Pundanam would read the Bhagavatam, and he would read this section, Rukmini's letter to Krishna, and then one day he put the bookmark to read from the next section the next day. So the next day, he can pick up from that area. But when he returned the book and he showed up again the next day, the bookmark had been moved to the beginning of Rukmini's section. And he didn't remember that fact. He just picked up the book and again started reading Rukmini's letter to Krishna. Um, Same thing happens the next day. And the next day, and the next day. And so for 10 days, this devotee Pundanam was just reading the same pastime over and over again, which is Rukmini's letter to Krishna. He would put the bookmark at the end, but the next day when he would show up, The bookmark was at the beginning of that chapter. He would forget about it and he would read the same chapter over and over again. And because the Bhagavatam is so fresh, Pundanam would think, oh, he's reading this for the very first time. He wouldn't realize that he's repeating something. So on the last day, he took the Bhagavatam with him as he was leaving the temple. But then he forgot to take it with him. And so he uh, he went back to the temple to get the Bhagavatam. But through the keyhole of the temple, he notices that Lord Shiva is narrating the Rukmini pastime to Mother Parvati. And Mother Parvati is saying, can you repeat what you just said? Lord Shiva is reading the pastime of Rukmini's letter to Krishna. And Mother Parvati is saying, can you actually repeat that again? I want to hear that pastime again. And Parvati says to Shiva that hearing this pastime is not as tasteful as hearing from Pundanam directly. So then Lord Shiva places the bookmark at the beginning of the chapter again so that Parvati can hear from Pundanam the next day. And so when Pundanam sees this from the keyhole of the temple, he sort of goes in ecstasy. And so, even a devotee like Parvati likes to hear from a pure devotee like Pundanam about the Bhagavatam. And so that's another sort of story that we hear. The other uh, story that is there was this temple where only brahmanas were allowed in this temple, and this devotee shows up there who wasn't a brahmana by birth, and so the pujaris, so he wasn't allowed to enter the temple because he wasn't a brahman by birth. So the pujaris in the temple notice that the deity in the temple is spinning. The deity in this temple is spinning. And they wonder why that's the case. Why is the deity spinning? And they notice that this devotee who had showed up outside the temple was circumambulating outside of the temple. And the deity was giving darshan to that devotee. And so this states that the Lord takes personal interest and personal intervention for the benefit of the devotee. And the last story or example that we see is Vritrasura. And Vritrasura was trying to trample on the demigods, but then Lord Indra becomes surprised at Vritrasura's desire to take shelter of the Lord. And Vritrasura was completely detached in that sense and surrendered to the Lord. And again, the end of that section, it says, if you hear the pastimes of Vritrasura, you gain benefit. And so, I thought that this verse sort of captures the importance of Bhagavatam in preparation for Brother Purnima that's coming up. The other verse that really inspires me or had inspired me in one of these morning classes was when we were preparing to hear about Lord Balaram specifically. This specific verse in the Bhagavatam is from Canto 9, Chapter 3, verse 34. And I won't read the Sanskrit, but the translation is Lord Baladev is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who hears and chants about him is purified. Because he's always the well-wisher of all living entities, he has descended with all his paraphernalia to purify the entire world and lessen its burden. And um, it sort of speaks to the qualities of Lord Balaram. Um, he's the older brother. I know we just celebrated Balaram Jayanti, but just two things I'll mention from this verse and um, from this personality is that one is he loves to serve Lord Krishna, and the other part is that Balaram is considered very straightforward, but Krishna is considered crooked. Lord Balaram was the one that sort of followed the laws and go by the book, and Lord Krishna was the one that was crooked and break the rules. And so there's so many instances where Lord Balaram would be the one telling Lord Krishna, "Hey, what are you doing? You're doing this, you're doing that. Like this is what you're supposed to do." when we in this Leela that we're here for. And um, in the Leela of Krishna's pastimes, many times we've heard from Rampad Maharaj about the various demons that Lord Krishna has killed, and it's described that each demon that Lord Krishna is killing is actually the removal of an obstacle in our life. Each demon represents some kind of obstacle in our life, and it's said that uh, Lord Balaram actually only kills two demons in the entire Leela. Maybe it's two or three, but the rest are killed by Krishna. But there's two specific demons that Lord Balaram kills, and there are two very specific obstacles that only Lord Balaram was qualified to remove. Of course, Krishna can remove them, but that's the significance of what Lord Balaram did. And so those two demons were Dhenukasura, and the other one was Pralambasura. Dhenukasura um, was, Kamsa's friend, Kamsa's buddy, and this is the demon where, Balaram had caught the demon by his leg and threw the demon round and round, and the demon fell on the tree. And so Dhenukasura represents gross material intelligence, like the intellectual knowledge that we have, and sometimes we use that knowledge, intellectual knowledge, to think that Krishna is not the real thing, and we go against Krishna consciousness, we go against our faith. And so that's the demon that Balaram kills, this gross material intelligence, which sometimes causes us to not believe in spirituality and the existence of Krishna. And so he kills that in the form of Dhenukasura. And Lord Balaram gives us the strength to deal and build that blind faith. He demonstrates that. The other pastime is of Pralambasura, who represents the special, recognition and um, lusty inclination. This demon had the capacity to change their shape, and the demon changes himself into a cowherd boy. And Pralambasura was lost, and he had manifested himself as a cowherd boy there. And Pralambasura was carrying Lord Balaram on his shoulder because, Pralambasura was disguising himself as one of the cowherd boys. Lord Balaram had gotten onto his shoulders just playfully after some picnic. And as all the cowherd boys were returning, Pralambasura started to veer off onto a different path. Again, he was disguised as a cowherd boy, and Lord Balaram was on his shoulders. And slowly, Balaram notices that Pralambasura is veering off to a different path. And Pralambasura's body started to get bigger, and sorry, and Lord Balaram could see that this is not a cowherd boy anymore. And so, Lord Balaram gets down and knocks him out with a punch, right? Um, and so, like this desire for recognition is what Pralambasura, is what this demon represents. This obstacle of this desire for recognition, which can be a blocker in progressing in a Krishna consciousness. And so, yeah, that was the other demon that Lord Balaram kills, and removes this obstacle for us. So these are some, yeah, key important verses that I felt were inspiring for me from the Bhagavatam, and were a critical part of, yeah. In anytime I prepare for Bhagavatam, these verses have been sort of important for me. So I think those are the sort of my offering, the things I wanted to share. There's more, but in a quick summary, that's what I wanted to share here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for a nice, very, what do you call, crystal clear kind of summary he gave. Very, very thoughtful. Yeah, I thought about it. I think it was very nicely presented. So, how you got connected with Srimad Bhagavatam? I mean, what are your moments, right? I mean, from the first moments or next couple of moments that you shared in relation to Bhagavatam.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, Prabhu.
that was nice. I know, I think those are special moments. Thank
Yeah.
you. I think it stuck to you, right? I mean, because the
Yeah.
first time when you saw Bhagavatam, the kind of book, I know
Yeah.
you're now looking for that because that helped you a lot. So you
Yeah.
can with it.
Yeah. 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 And thank you to you, Prabhu, for organizing a service like this and bringing all of us together. I know it's not easy, so
Yeah,
thank
devotees
you
are
to you.
helping me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shidhar Prabhu, I mean, yeah, all of you are speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not easy, right? I mean, morning 7:30 with all things. So you're all doing. So I'm just coordinating. That's also.
Still, Prabhu, very much appreciated. Yeah.
Thank you. And also you the Haribol. Shigatava.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking, bro, the story. I mean, the first verse that you read
Yeah.
was such a nice thing. I mean, the three past times. I think if I remember, you quoted right in relation
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
That I mean, I never heard that story of you said Maharaj mentioned during the South India Yatra. I don't remember hearing that past time,
Yeah.
but
This was like back in,
I
I
know
think,
I heard those lectures. I remember, but I don't. I mean, yeah, I don't remember that story. I mean, I never heard again. So,
yeah.
but it was such a nice thing to hear. I mean, how the devotees. What is his name?
So
The devotee name that
there's
was.
the you're talking about the Kutiyor temple, Shiva temple,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
Pundanam.
Pundanam. Okay, even
Yeah.
I remember reading. Okay, yeah, the way he was reading Rukmini's letter. I mean, the past time. So it was. He
He
read 10 days.
Mark actually narrated the story in South India Yatra, and also recently, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, he'd also.
Maybe I missed it. I mean, I missed it, or I might have not able to recollect.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a nice thing. I mean, even Mother Parvati I mean, wanted to hear the same pastime.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not normal what you call storybook, right? I mean,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not even sure like where Marsh found the story, but yeah, it was very nice. Yeah.
yeah, and I was kind of thinking, I mean, when Maharaj was traveling, right? And Rumpad Maharaj was traveling and giving these classes, every time he talks some pastime. I mean, I don't it's
Yeah.
like I mean to hear, I mean for us, I don't know how much we can hear if he's talking about it two times, three times continuous. Maybe after 1 year, maybe we'll be able to hear again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he same Denukas, everywhere he goes, he's so immersed, and then he was talking about it at least last 3-4 years, right? In this Krishna, I mean, 10th canto is kind of
Yeah.
he's mostly referring to this, right?
Yeah.
Wherever you go in the evening classes.
Yeah.
Krishna, I was kind of thinking how many times he will speak.
No, I know.
It is. I mean, because he's not looking at that as a story, right? I mean,
Exactly.
it is.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
is. It is
Yeah.
something more. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu, and thank you for everyone. Yeah. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare
Very
Krishna.
wonderful class, so much for information.
Oh, you
Thank you
dropped
very
off,
much.
Mataji.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.